Hello, all you wonderful people in the digital world. Welcome back once again to another episode of Spliced In Later. It's episode 2 of this week. As promised, it's time for another movie review. To review something that I really think no one really cares about or wants to hear about and probably won't get a lot of traction on the old interwebs. Because it's already been out for a couple of weeks in the main US of A. And also because no one wants to see this movie or likes it. Which, yeah, is fair. But I wanted to see it as soon as it came out, and I want to talk about it. So here we are. A little bit of housekeeping for you before I get started. For all one of you who care, you may notice that starting with this episode onwards, the Spliced In Later episodes are no longer on Spotify. If you do want to listen, as I assume you are, if you are listening, the sole place to do that at the moment is via YouTube. I won't bore you with too much of the details on that. I just looked at how... Look, let's be fair. This podcast is not popular. It's not ever going to be mainstream. Not for any other reason than just I don't care enough to make it good, I think. All I want to do is just talk about movies and TV shows. Genuinely hoping to reach some people, whatever. I don't care. It's just an outlet for me. I'm never going to be someone who has 1 million subscribers or makes money off this or swanky or anything like that. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I was using a domain to host episodes so that they could be distributed to Spotify and other areas. And most of these things do charge you to do that. And I looked up the $20 a month or so it was costing me, especially with the current exchange rate going on with other countries in the world. You know, sometimes it's $20, sometimes it's more than that, sometimes it's less than that. And on Spotify, I'd roughly get about 2 or 3 listens an episode. Maybe now and then it might hit traction and I might make it to the double digits. I think there was only one episode which ever hit like 100 listens, I'm not sure. On Spotify specifically, or at least via that outlet. Which is not worth it, in my opinion. Whereas on YouTube, for better or worse, I do get hits on here. It may people who click on for 2 seconds and go, fuck this, and leave. But I always tend to at least seem to feel like it is at least reaching some people. Maybe I'll get some comments. Maybe I'll get a couple subscribers. Maybe I'll lose a subscriber. The YouTube stuff is the stuff I put more effort into because I have to provide a video accompanying it. Yes, it's normally just posters, sometimes little cutaways for top 10 stuff. But for the most part, that at least, while small still, does feel like that's the road I want to go on, especially because it doesn't cost me anything. If I'm not expecting to make money off of it, I'm not going to spend money on it, I guess. So for future, as again, for just the few of you who have decided to listen on YouTube instead of Spotify and were like, that's odd, why wasn't there a Spotify? That's why. I know I may lose a lot of you as a result of that. I know YouTube doesn't play in the background unless you've got YouTube Premium. It's not as easy to listen to. So that's fine. But just in terms of smartness, I think this is the road I want to take. And now that that's out of the way, we can move on and talk about the Expendables 4. I refuse to call it Expendables, as it appears to be called, because we already have an Expendables. That was Expendables 1. And I refuse to acknowledge that it is Expendables with a 4 in replacement of the A. Yes, that essentially means this movie could be called Expendables, much like Fantastic when Fantastic Four put a 4 instead of their A. I really hate when movies just put numbers in place of letters. It doesn't look good. It does not look aesthetically pleasing. Human beings as a whole are attracted to symmetry, and doing that, I think, throws a lot of people off. You can use the number in place of a word, I think, like Madagascar, escape, number 2, Africa, or coming to America. But even then, I don't like it that much. That's acceptable grounds to at least be creative with your numbering system. This sort of is a reflection of the movie as a whole. I don't know if anyone really wanted to make it. I don't know if anyone really cares that it's out. I don't think we'll ever really see another Expendables after this one. Honestly, what can I say about it, really? As I said when I was talking about the creator, I was marking creator against a much higher standard because of the effort and themes and all the stuff it was investigating. With Expendables 4, I have lowered the bar significantly that it has to accomplish. Because Expendables movies have never been pure cinema art. They are exactly what they are on the tin. The first Expendables was just getting a bunch of relatively has-been action stars with a couple of current ones here and there. But you had your Stallones, your Schwarzeneggers, your Bruce Willises, your Dolph Lundgrens, all of that. And it was basically just, I don't want to say a boys' film, because it's not a boys' film, but it's kind of what closed-minded people would expect a man film to be, which is just bloody violence, men perving on women, swearing and innuendos and comparing dick sizes and all of that stuff. And to be fair, that's kind of what the Expendables franchise is as a whole. But it does not pretend to be something else. The Expendables doesn't expect you to go in and be moved to tears by what you see, or have your existential crises that you get if you watch Spy Kids 2 or something like that. It's just, hey, do you want to turn your brain off for an hour and a half and just watch some glorious violence with those old action stars that you don't see very often in mainstream Hollywood movies these days, giving them their chance in the sun, you know? And that's what's nice about them. The first Expendables and the second Expendables, I think, do the job really well. They're very violent, they're very gnarly, they're very macho. They don't make you think too much, but you have a lot of fun. And everyone involved seems like they're having a fun time doing it. Stallone is the head of the Expendables franchise. He kicked it off. He's the one who pioneered it in the early days. So he is essentially our lead. Alongside him is Jason Statham as knife expert Lee Christmas. They have a co-captaincy. But then you've got your Dolph Lundgren, your Randy Cotas, Mickey Rourke, Jean-Claude Van Damme was in the second one, Antonio Banderas and Wesley Snipes were in the third one. Those first two are solid. The third was a misstep. I'm not sure what was going on with the powers that be behind the scenes, but several wrong turns were made, mainly to lower the rating to a PG-13. I guess this was before things like Deadpool and Logan proved that there was a market for R-rated box office smashes. So Expendables 3, they lowered that, hoping to appeal to a wider audience, and they didn't really get there. They also made the mistake of going, let's push the older actors aside and bring in the new bloods. Stallone brings in Ronda Rousey, Kellen Lutz, who were the other ones? Glenn Powell and somebody else, I think. Sure, the point of the movie is that then the old guard have to come in and rescue the newbies, but you spend a lot of the movie just wishing they were there. And without the bloody violence, it does lose a lot of its fun. That was back in 2014. We had 3 Expendables film every 2 years from 2010 to 2014. And then it sort of fell off the wagon. I think they were trying to push a female Expendables, which I don't think is going to happen. I'm not sure. Sylvester Stallone hit it big with Creed. Everybody sort of drifted off to do their own things, whether it was retire from acting or get sick, or I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why some of these actors aren't doing stuff anymore. Stallone himself even said, I'm done with Expendables. I feel so sorry for the guy, because he was hounded by Schwarzenegger and all these other people who were like, you can't let the Expendables die, Stallone. Come back and do the Expendables 4. So he did. And none of them agreed to do it with him, which is just, what the hell, guys? As such, for this fourth one, Stallone has taken a very big backseat. He's hardly in the film. It's a much reduced role. Jason Statham is our star here. He's the one who stood by Stallone and is like, as long as he wants to make these films, I'll be in it. So Stallone has very not thankfully, but like he recognizes when someone actually supports him, I think, and is like, okay, Statham, not only are you back for Expendables 4, but this is your vehicle now. You're the star, you're the leader. That's where we're going with. So what can I say about Expendables 4, which is a movie that came out 9 years after the last one? I will say it's back to its bloody R rating, which is great for the violence that's actually in the film. As I started this ramble, though, I'm not going into this saying like, oh, the Expendables 4 was a complete letdown. It should have been as great as the others. I think in retrospect, the movie is just like the other ones. it just seems everybody involved is less enthusiastic, and they've just lost a lot of the pull and drive that made anyone care about the Expendables franchise in the first place. And when all that's gone, you're left with just kind of just a boring film, which is the worst thing a movie can be, unfortunately. You can be incredible, moving, Oscar-worthy, all of that stuff, or you can be so bad it's memorable, wherein it might be terrible, it might be baffling, it might be ludicrous, but stuff in it will stick with you and you remember the movie. I saw this, what is it now? I walked out of the cinema an hour and a half ago and I actually went, did I see that today? I'm struggling to have it stick in my brain, which is never a good sign because it's just not memorable on either end of the spectre. Even by Expendables standards. Expendables films should at least be entertaining and violent. And it's not really. Expendables 4, Expendables, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's kind of like the same as the other Expendables, but on a much smaller scale with a lot less big-name actors in it. Barney Ross assembles his team, which now includes 50 Cent, Antonio Banderas' fictional son in the movie, not Antonio Banderas' real son. I guess they couldn't get Antonio Banderas, so they just gave his lines to a different person and said, that's the character's son. Andy Garcia, a couple other people. They all are off on some mission to essentially go after Barney Ross's white whale. Supposedly some mysterious bad guy who he doesn't know who the identity of this person is. Meaning you're like, okay, so it's someone in the movie. Wants to track him down because they've been playing cat and mouse with each other for like 25 years or something. In the opening mission, things don't go according to plan. Jason Statham defies orders, which not only fails, but does not prevent an expendable from dying. So when the rest of the team are heading to go after this bad guy, and get revenge, Jason Statham is sidelined, and his current girlfriend in the movie, Megan Fox, is assigned to be take his place on the team. Jason Statham doesn't like that. He wants to avenge the fallen expendable, so he tracks after them. The rest of the movie takes place on a ship, which is carrying a nuclear weapon, as two different strike teams of the Expendables, Jason Statham and Tony Jaa on one side, and the main Expendables on the other, infiltrate the boat to stop the nuclear bomb from going off and causing World War III. Very, very simple. The opening action set piece and the boat are the two only big action things going on, which is disappointing because it does make the film very contained, especially because, as this was something I said with a few other movies recently, it's all shot in front of green screen with poor CG, so it just doesn't look very believable, unfortunately. The violence is back to being violent, which is great. There's some brutal kills, especially with knives and axes and things. A little less cool because a lot of it is CG, so you got that really noticeable fake blood that spurts from people. But it is nice that the movie franchise has acknowledged the violence is what people want to see. Let's do it. Some positives. It's kind of a negative as well, but it's more a positive to a negative in just my personal bias. But Jason Statham is very good in the movie. In the detriment, though, it's not really an Expendables movie. It's a Jason Statham movie. It's his movie. He's the action star. He's the hero. He's the one constantly in action scenes and saving the day. His rapport with Stallone is really good. I really like their scenes with each other. It's really carried over from the last three. They are essentially the heart of this franchise. But because Stallone is not really involved in this film at all, very little of what he does in the film outside of what you've seen in the trailers is in here. So you lose that by not having Stallone, the face of the Expendables, being in it a lot. But then you also have the rest of the Expendables sidelined for Jason Statham to do practically everything. It's a long time before ones like Dolph Lundgren and Randy Couture get to even really do anything. They spend a lot of the time locked up or watching Jason Statham or whatever like that. Jason Statham's great. I love him. I liked him better in this than in Meg 2, which is pretty good. And I do like the returning Expendables that come back. I like Dolph Lundgren. He's got something going on in this one where he's getting old, so he has to wear glasses, but he's a sniper, so it's kind of bad that he can't see. and he's not drinking, which is a big part of his character because he was an alcoholic in the last few. And Randy Coter as Toll Road, he's like the everyday comic relief guy. He's very pleasant. He's very fun to watch. So I liked that they were still around. You got those two, Statham and Stallone, to at least be like, this is the Expendables franchise. It's just on a much smaller scale. I don't give a shit about 90% of the new characters. The guy playing Antonio Banderas' son annoyed me because I really liked Antonio Banderas in Expendables 3. I really wanted him to be in the movie. We kind of just got Diet Coke Antonio Banderas, which would be fine if he was allowed to be his own character, but he is literally just doing what they really obviously wrote for Antonio Banderas and then didn't know what to do when they didn't get him for the film. He doesn't even get any moments to shine or thrive as a personality. There's one bit which I laughed at. He pulled up in a car and said, "Get in, losers, we're going shopping." And I laughed because I just remembered that Mean Girls is a really good movie and I'd like to watch that after Expendables is over. Megan Fox is monotone. She does not sound like she really cares if she's in the movie or not. Andy Garcia is cartoonishly overacting, and 50 Cent is not an actor. I don't know why people put him in things. He looked like he was about to fall asleep. Like he did not know what was going on and he did not care. I really like Tony Jaa. I wish there were more of him in the movie, but he was generally had some enthusiasm that reminds me of Expendables movies, and he was kicking ass, which was great. And a couple of other martial artist actors here or there that I can't remember their names, but they were cool because you at least got to see them show off their skills. But everything else about the movie is just poor form. You sort of wish you were watching one of any of the other Expendables, even Expendables 3. Not that this is better or worse than Expendables 3. It's just there's no enthusiasm. It's just sort of sleepwalking through the film. Everybody's sort of walking around. They say some lines. They do brief bits of action. You hardly see what's going on a lot of the time. Blessedly, the movie is short, so it does not overstay its welcome, I think. But if no one wanted to make the movie, just don't make the movie, I guess. Jason Statham at least is putting in the effort. He's delivering the lines. He at least tries to have an emotional story in here, which is completely undermined by a twist at the end of the movie, which is just stupid. The movie should have had the balls to stick with something, and they didn't. They had to reverse it at the last second, which is just bafflingly stupid. And the direction. I looked up who directed this film. I never want to go after a director specifically. I could never be a director. But even I was like, what's going on with this directing? It was like someone from high school had done it. Someone who doesn't know how to cut a scene or end a scene. There would be scenes where it would just linger too long when a scene should naturally have come to a conclusion. And then either it would suddenly just cut abruptly without any sort of resolution to that lingering bit, or for example it'll hold on Stallone for much too long and then he'll go yep, and then the scene will cut and I'm like, what was that? I don't know. I looked up the director's credits. He hasn't done that much. He directed Need for Speed, which also was bafflingly directed, but that at least was a bit more fun, I think. And he directed Act of Valor, which I think is like a more of a docu-film about SEAL team. So I get why if you want to direct an action film with guns and things, he might be a good choice. But I don't know. If even I'm going, I could direct this better, I think there's a problem. Overall, I mean, there's not much to say about this in general. It doesn't need to exist. If any movie really doesn't need to exist, I guess it's this one. Not because I don't like it, but just because I don't think anyone who made it cares or likes it. It gets a 4 out of 10 from me. There were moments where I laughed, moments where I was entertained. The brief times there was action, I had fun with it. But for the most part, it is skippable. I don't think anyone really needs to see it. If you feel like you need to continue the Expendables story, you're not really going to get it here. If you want to see a Jason Statham action film, you at least get Jason Statham stuff in here. So, I don't know. If that's your jam, go for it. But I'm pretty sure this movie will disappear in a blink of an eye. I'll add it to my collection as I do of everything, but I don't think this one's really going to change on a repeat viewing for me. in any sense. Whether I find some hidden gems or I see some of the stuff's baffling, then I think it's good. It is just something that has existed for a brief moment of time in 2023. And that was Expendables 4. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. I thank you to everyone who is listening to me on YouTube, whether you've made the journey over from Spotify or you just listened because you clicked on this because you want to hear what someone has to say about Expendables. We'll keep the podcast going on here. I enjoy doing it, so I'm not going to quit anytime soon. I'm frantically looking to see what movies are coming out at the end of the year that might upset my top 10 films of the year. I believe the next film on the docket that I will see is Killers of the Flower Moon, which is the next Scorsese film that's almost 4 hours. But Scorsese films are always awesome, so, I'm looking forward to that. And I saw a trailer for Napoleon. I saw the Napoleon trailer finally. And, I don't know, might go see that one too. At the very least, I will, of course, be seeing the Marvels at the start of November. So we got some stuff coming. Next week, I'm reviewing Ahsoka, which is just concluded on Disney+. I think I'll travel back in time and talk about some more MCU stuff. Maybe I'll rank something else. We got some stuff coming, so be sure to keep tuning in on YouTube, please, because there will be stuff, I promise. And thank you again. It does mean a lot to me that you all listen, even if it's only for the first few seconds. All right. Until next week, I love and appreciate you. As always, stay kind, stay safe, stay lovely to one another. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.